Oi, oi, right, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is the Doodle Review coming through with a new album to give a spin, chat some fraff about, and then assign an arbitrary score to. Today it's the turn of Oso Oso and their latest Life Till Bones. I don't know about you, but in the last 10 years or so, I've noticed so many bands pursuing a sound that kind of takes the jangles of indie rock, the soaring hooks and energy of pop punk, and the earnest emotion of emo. Pinegrove is probably the best example that comes to mind, like straight away, but you've also got bands like Dogleg, Anxious, maybe even Alex G, you could kind of lump in this group, although he has a bit more of an alternative folk feel. Anyway, if you know what I'm talking about, then you might already be aware. But if what I've just described sounds like your bag and you don't already know, probably the best of these bands I would say is Oso Oso. Emerging from previous group State Lines and carrying a heavy influence from acts like Brand New and Taking Back Sunday, guitarist and vocalist Jade Lilytree formed Oso Oso around 2014. They originally actually called Oso 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 Oso, but because people didn't know how many Osos to put in their Oso when they were trying to find Oso Oso online, Lilytree decided to simplify it. It's a good call. Two albums dropped in the earliest days, real stories of true people who kind of look like monsters in 2015, and then the Unihon mixtape into 2017, both demonstrating heaps of raw songwriting talent that just sharpened with each release. Basking in the Glow dropped in 2019, which is when I tapped in. Around this time, I was just starting to get over my kind of juvenile aversion to pop punk and emo for a while. Stemming from my teens, I'd kind of written off stuff I deemed too whiny, too earnest, dare I say, too American sounding. I'd always kind of made a compromise, I guess, like a little carve out for the work of Elliott Smith, but gradually throughout my 20s, I started to add more and more bands to that kind of acceptable allocation. Starting at metalcore and going through punk and skate punk, I could begin to kind of connect the dots. And as you do over time, I started to realize that there's good shit everywhere. And those few artists I used as proof to write off a whole genre in the early days were just that. It was just a few artists. Pinegrove's Cardinal record in 2017 got me comfortable with that link into emo. They got me primed. And then in 2019, Oso Oso dropped Basking in the Glow at the perfect time. The emotions are rough, raw, and on the surface, not quite as ragged as Pinegrove, but distinctly present. And they all ride the coattails of these undeniable pop punk hooks. The chugs and power chords you'd be used to hearing alongside these types of tracks were traded for arpeggios, jangles, and some lo fi production to bring it all together. Basking in the Glow was a big success for the band, and rightly so. It probably would have been, bigger and gotten further if it wasn't for the pandemic. But, even so, the success was enough such that principal songwriter and band mastermind Lilytree felt pressure when it came to following it up. To burst this pressure bubble, Lilytree, alongside guitarist and cousin Tavish Maloney, decided to go away and record a bunch of rough demos with the express intention to just leave them as demos, just record whatever felt good and put it aside, maybe put them out in some form, but just not consider them an album. To get that next batch of songs out from under that impending cloud of pressure, get them out, clear of space, clear the decks for new material they could write later on. Sadly, it was just 1 month after these recordings were complete that Tavish Maloney unexpectedly passed away at the age of 24. As a result, and in honor of his late cousin and writing partner, Lilytree decided to release those recordings as the proper album, Sore Thumb, in 2022. You can definitely hear the roughness on Sore Thumb, but without knowing the background, you'd honestly just think it was kind of a production choice. It doesn't sound wildly different from Basking, but there is a carefree, maybe even unserious feeling to the tracks. I think of the one song in particular that sounds like a kind of funny commercial jingle for Gatorade. Credit to Lilytree and Maloney that even with those quirks, the songwriting is still just as captivating as it ever was. While Sore Thumb was released in honor of Tavish Maloney, it was obviously written while the guitarist was very much alive. So Lilytree's grief at losing his cousin would, of course, serve as the core inspiration for whatever album would follow. Life Till Bones is that follow up. So naturally, the lyrics are reflective, touching on themes of loss and seizing the life we have, but they're packaged within songs that continue Oso Oso's trademark of punchy, sharp arrangements and soaring hooks. embellished this time with some crisper production. The hooks on this record are insane and they are present at every single level. A hook is a bit of a nebulous term. Anything can really be a hook in a song, but a lot of times when I refer to a hook, I might be talking about the vocal melody. Jay Lilletree's songwriting on Life Till Bones is a great example, though, of how hooks can be woven into all elements of a song. The lyrics, for example, the actual words, take the country club. It starts with the words, I've got a lot to apologize for. Now, when I listen to music, it's not always on such a deep level that I'm processing all the wordplay and vocabulary choices all the time. But this statement, I've got a lot to apologize for, even on a subconscious level, is provocative. At some level, no matter how casual, you're registering like, oh, hello, your boy's obviously got something to say here. It's a great way to start a song. We then have hooks woven into the production. On All of My Love, a song absolutely resplendent with hooks anyway, on this track during the first chorus, they decide to add a roll of claps like ch-ch-ch-ch, and do so in a way where everything else drops out and these claps just pop. The chorus is on that tune is banging, but here, even on the first listen, you're like snapped into it. It's a fantastic choice. Lilletree's knack for a vocal hook is incredible, and these are everywhere, but not counting the ones I've just mentioned. One of my other favorite vocal hooks is on That's What Time Does. There are about a gazillion earworms before we get there, but on the chorus, you have these lines that kind of ascend, like, you let out this little sigh, both of us lined up by the eye. It's just brilliant. It's so catchy. Then, of course, you've got instrumental hooks, and because Lilletree's so talented when it comes to those vocal melodies, he doesn't have to get too technical or weird to make something stick. Most of the riffs are super casual, like on Dog Without His Bark, for instance, but they just work. It's really hard to find fault on the writing of this album. It is so infinitely listenable and catchy, with something placed within each musical component to just hook your ear. There are some songs that are maybe more successful than others. You could say Seesaw is a little repetitive, but ultimately it's just reflecting the lyrical device of a seesaw, going back and forth. Skippy has some slightly weird production choices, like right up front with these acoustic guitars. It almost sounds like it could be like a Natasha Bedingfield song for that brief first few seconds. It's something, it just catches me out every time, but it's a tiny detail, and the rest of the song goes in a completely different direction. Interestingly, I would say the album's finale, Other People's Stories, I think you can make an argument that musically it's not quite as strong as the rest here, but it feels like this is more about the words in this case and the pathos offered by the lyrics, which name check the album title and lead into a nice kind of guitar solo-y climax. This is an exceptional emo indie pop punk record that I think will hit hard with anyone that counts themselves as a fan of any one of those genres. Don't sleep on it. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. And before we completely knock it on the head, I'm going to introduce a new component to the ranking system, the list. So we know the rating, but does Oso Oso Life Till Bones make the list? For those that don't know, I'm referencing my own ever-growing, intimidating list of albums that I would like to own on vinyl if I can find them at a reasonable price at some point. So does Oso Oso make that list? Hell yes, it does. It's a banger. It goes right on that list. Ba-boom. Right. With that out of the way, it is time to knock it on the head. Let me know what you're saying about this album if you've heard it, and if you haven't, check it out. Come back, let me know. Check out other reviews linked in the description below. And if you can be asked to do all that, you may as well subscribe, stick around, share some thoughts, show some love, or just have some abuse in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. All right, mate. There you go. Nice one. Cheers, then. Bye.